Today you're going to look at quadratic functions in factored form. Factored form of a quadratic equation or function is f of x equals a times the quantity of x minus r sub 1 times the quantity of x minus r sub 2. There are two things that this form will determine. First of all, if a is less than 0, then the graph is going to open down and it's going to make a frown. But if a is greater than 0, the parabola opens up and you get a smile. The second thing that this form determines is what your zeros and your x-intercepts are going to be. So your zeros in this case are going to be your r sub 1 and your r sub 2. Zeros are also called the x-intercepts, where the graph crosses the x-axis. In order to solve this form, you have to use what is known as the zero factor property. So if a and b are real numbers, and if a times b is equal to 0, then a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0, or both. So to use the zero factor property, set both expressions equal to 0, then solve for x. In the function f of x equals the quantity of x minus 3 times the quantity of x minus 9, the first thing you're going to do is set x minus 3 and x minus 9 both equal to 0. Once you do that, you're going to solve both of them for x. So x minus 3 equals 0. You're going to add 3 to both sides. X is equal to 3. And for x minus 9 equal to 0, add 9 to both sides. X is equal to 9. So my zeros, or the x-intercepts, is going to be 3, 9. And it's going to open up because a is equal to 1. Another example, f of x equals negative 2 times the quantity of x minus 7 times the quantity of x plus 2. We're going to use the zero factor property and set both quantities equal to 0. So set x minus 7 equal to 0 or x plus 2 equal to 0. Now we're ready to solve for x. So with the first equation, add 7 to both sides. X equals 7. And the second equation, subtract 2 from both sides. X is equal to negative 2. So my zeros, or x-intercepts, are going to be 7, negative 2. And it opens down because a is negative 2. In our second example, now we only see one expression inside the parentheses, but there's an x on the outside. So here again, you set both quantities equal to 0. So x is equal to 0 or x plus 8 is equal to 0. Solve for x. Since the first equation is already solved for x, one of our solutions is x equals 0. And the second one, subtract 8 from both sides. X is equal to negative 8. So our zeros, or x-intercepts, would be 0, negative 8. And this parabola is going to open up because x, in front of the x value, a is 1, and it's positive. In this equation, now notice that we have 3 quantities. One of the equations is the opposite of x is equal to 0. And the other 2 equations are x plus 4 equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. So you want to first solve the first one, by getting rid of that negative in front of the x, so divide both sides by -1. X is equal to 0. The second equation, subtract 4 from both sides. X is equal to -4. And the third equation, subtract 5 from both sides. X is equal to -5. So this time we have 3 solutions. It's going to cross the x-axis 3 times. At x equals 0, x equals -4, and x equals -5. And this one is going to open down. In our next equation, we have f of x is equal to 3 times the quantity of 2x plus 1 times the quantity of 3x minus 4. So we still set both expressions equal to 0, solve for x. So when 2x plus 1 equals 0, subtract 1 from both sides. So therefore, you're going to cross out 0. That leaves me with 2x equals -1. Divide both sides by +2. X is equal to -1/2. In the second one, we're going to add 4 to both sides, cross out 0. We have 3x equals 4. Divide both sides by 3. X is equal to 4/3. So our zeros, or our x-intercepts, is going to be -1/2, +4/3. And since in this case a is 3 and it's greater than 0, then it's going to open up. All right, in this function, now notice that the expressions are exactly the same, x plus 1. So you only have to set one of them equal to 0. Solve for x. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. And 1 plus -1 is 0, so cross out 0. And we're left with x is equal to -1. So notice we only get one solution, which means that the graph is going to cross the x-axis once. And our zeros will end up to be -1. And so in this case, since a is -5, this parabola is going to open down. Now here's another video you can watch on YouTube. Please click the link and it'll take you straight to it. Notice the graphs that are being graphed within this video. Go to your lesson and do the problems. Have a good day.